Dr. Hansol Kim was finishing his third cup of coffee when the emergency alert lit up his phone. He had been working for 16 hours straight at Seoul International Medical Center, and the last thing he expected was to make history that night. "Doctor, you need to come to emergency room 1 right now." The voice of head nurse Bo Ray Yang crackled through his phone. Something in her voice made him stand up immediately. "It's different from anything we've seen before." He grabbed his white coat and rushed down the brightly lit hallway. The squeak of his shoes against the floor tiles echoed through the quiet hospital corridors. As he approached the emergency room, he noticed something odd. There were men in black suits standing guard at the entrance. Inside the emergency room, Dr. Kim stopped dead in his tracks. On the bed lay a creature that definitely wasn't human. Its skin was a pale blue color, and it had 4 arms. Where a human would have had a nose, this being had small breathing slits. 2 staff members stood frozen, staring at their unusual patient. "The patient is the Nadarian ambassador," a tall woman in a government uniform explained quickly. They were in the middle of the first diplomatic meeting when the ambassador collapsed. "We brought them here because it was the closest advanced medical facility." Dr. Kim moved forward, his medical training kicking in despite the strangeness of the situation. "What are the symptoms?" he asked, pulling on his gloves. "Rapid breathing, loss of consciousness, and their skin changed from blue to this gray color," the government agent replied. The doctor noticed the ambassador's chest rising and falling too quickly. The medical monitors showed readings that made no sense for a human patient, but clearly something was wrong. The creature's 4 hands were clenched tightly. "We need to help them, but we don't know anything about their biology," Nurse Boris said, her hands shaking slightly as she prepared emergency equipment. Dr. Kim took a deep breath. "They're here for diplomatic talks, right? Do they have any medical information with them? A database or files?" One of the government agents pulled out a tablet. "Yes, they provided basic medical information as part of the diplomatic package. Here." Dr. Kim quickly read through the alien medical data. Their biology was different from humans in many ways, but he noticed something familiar. Their breathing system used oxygen, just like humans. He also saw that their normal body temperature was much lower than humans, and their heart-like organ beat at a much slower rate. "Their body temperature is too high," he announced. "And these breathing problems, I think they're having an allergic reaction to something in our atmosphere. We need to cool them down and treat the allergic response." Working quickly, Dr. Kim and his team applied cooling packs to the ambassador's body. He carefully calculated and administered a modified dose of anti-allergic medication, adjusted for the alien's body mass and chemical makeup. Minutes passed in tense silence. Slowly, the ambassador's breathing began to steady. Their skin started returning to its natural blue shade. Finally, their eyes, all 4 of them, opened. The ambassador spoke in perfect Korean, thanks to their translation device. "What happened?" "You had an allergic reaction to something in Earth's atmosphere," Dr. Kim explained calmly. "We've treated it, and you should feel better now. We'll need to run some tests to identify the specific trigger." The Nadarian ambassador looked at Dr. Kim with all 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "You treated me without any prior experience with my species. Most remarkable. In my culture, healers train for decades before they're allowed to treat a new species." Dr. Kim smiled modestly. "Human doctors are trained to adapt and make quick decisions. Sometimes, saving a life means taking calculated risks." "Fascinating," the ambassador said. "Perhaps we have underestimated humans. I must inform the Galactic Medical Council about this incident. Your ability to successfully treat an unknown species with such limited information is unprecedented." As Dr. Kim filled out his medical report that night, he had no idea that this case would become the first chapter in a new section of alien medical textbooks, a section dedicated entirely to the surprising capabilities of human medical practitioners and their patients. Dr. Ji Woo Park sat in her dimly lit office at the Interstellar Medical Research Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing medical data from 20 different species, As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent the last 3 months comparing human medical records with alien medical data shared by the Galactic Medical Council. What she found made her question everything she knew about human biology. "This can't be right," she muttered, double-checking the numbers on her screen. She had been studying the case where a human construction worker had survived a 40-foot fall with only broken bones. According to the alien medical standards, such an impact should have been fatal to any intelligent species. She pulled up more cases: a farmer who recovered from severe burns in half the expected time, a child who fought off 3 different viral infections at once, a swimmer who held her breath underwater for 6 minutes without any special training. The door to her office slid open, and her research assistant, Young Ho Baek, walked in carrying 2 cups of tea. "You look worried," Young Ho said, placing a cup on her desk. "Did you find something wrong with the data?" "No, that's what's strange," Dr. Park replied, pointing to her screens. "Look at these numbers. Humans heal from broken bones 3 times faster than the galactic average. Our immune system can fight multiple infections simultaneously. We can lose 30% of our blood volume and still remain conscious." Young Ho leaned closer to look at the displays. "Isn't that normal?" "Not for advanced species," Dr. Park explained. "According to the galactic data, as species evolve and become more intelligent, they usually become more specialized and less resilient. Their medical technology makes up for it. But humans, we're different." She pulled up a new set of images showing healing patterns. "See this? When a human breaks a bone, the body immediately begins multiple repair processes. Other species need medical intervention to trigger these responses. And look at our pain tolerance levels. They're off the charts compared to other spacefaring races." Young Ho frowned. "But why haven't the aliens noticed this before?" "Because they've been looking at us wrong," Dr. Park said, excitement growing in her voice. "They measure advancement by how delicate and specialized a species becomes. By their standards, we look primitive because we're so sturdy. They never considered that our adaptability itself might be an advanced trait." She began composing a message to the Galactic Medical Council. Her fingers flew over the holographic keyboard as she documented her findings. The implications were enormous. Human medical capabilities weren't just different. They were unprecedented in galactic history. "We should contact Dr. Han-Sol Kim," Yumho suggested. "His successful treatment of the Nidarian ambassador makes more sense now. He was working with a much more fragile species than ours." Dr. Park nodded. "Good idea. And we need to gather more data. Can you contact all major hospitals? We need every case where humans have shown unusual recovery abilities." As they worked through the night, more evidence piled up. Humans could regulate their body temperature across a wider range than any known species. They could adapt to extreme environments in ways that seemed impossible to alien medical experts. Even their ability to process different types of food was remarkably advanced. The next morning, Dr. Park received an urgent message from the Galactic Medical Council. Her report had caused quite a stir. The council was sending their top medical researcher to Earth immediately. As she prepared for the upcoming meeting, Dr. Park smiled. Humans had been trying so hard to prove they belonged among the stars. Now they might have proof that they were extraordinary in ways no one had imagined. "Sometimes," she said to Yummo, "being different is better than being advanced." The discovery would change everything, not just for human medicine, but for their place in the galactic community. The species that many had dismissed as too primitive was about to teach the galaxy a lesson about the true meaning of biological advancement. Dr. Yuna Lee stood nervously in the pristine white conference room of the Global Medical Research Center. Around the large oval table sat 12 representatives from the Galactic Medical Council, their diverse appearances reflecting the variety of species in the galaxy. At the head of the table sat Medical Director Klix, a tall being with silver skin and eyes that changed color based on their mood. "Dr. Lee," Medical Director Klix began, their eyes shifting to a curious shade of green, "your research proposal is most unusual. You wish to study human healing abilities in detail. Yes, Dr. Lee replied, standing straight. After Dr. Park's discoveries, we believe a full research program is necessary. Humans have medical capabilities that could benefit all species. She pressed a button, and holographic images appeared above the table. They showed various human healing processes, a broken bone knitting itself back together, skin regenerating after a burn, and white blood cells attacking multiple infections at once. What makes this proposal different is our approach, Dr. Lee continued. Instead of viewing human traits as primitive, we want to understand how they could advance galactic medicine. Medical Director Clix's eyes turned blue with interest. Explain further. Dr. Lee touched another button. A new image appeared, showing a human runner recovering from extreme exhaustion. Take this example. Humans can push their bodies to the point of complete exhaustion and recover within hours. Other species need days or even weeks to recover from similar stress. The alien representatives murmured among themselves. One of them, a reptilian doctor, spoke up. But humans are so messy. They sweat, they bleed easily, they experience intense emotions. Exactly, Dr. Lee said with a smile. What we see as normal, you see as chaotic. But that chaos might be the key to our strength. Our bodies don't just survive damage. They learn from it and become stronger. Medical Director Clix raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. What resources do you need? A joint research team, Dr. Lee answered. Human and alien doctors working together. We need to study how human medical treatments could be adapted for other species. And we need to understand why our healing processes are so different. The next few hours passed in detailed discussion. By the end, Dr. Lee had received full approval and funding for her research initiative. Medical Director Clix would personally oversee the project. 1 month later, the research center was bustling with activity. Dr. Lee walked through the labs, observing human and alien doctors working side by side. In one room, they studied human pain tolerance. In another, they analyzed the remarkable speed of human tissue regeneration. Dr. Lee called out her assistant, Harin Kwan. You need to see this. Harin led her to a microscope where they had been studying human blood samples. Look what happens when we introduce alien pathogens. Dr. Lee peered through the microscope. The human immune cells were not just fighting the alien bacteria. They were adapting to fight them more effectively with each encounter. This is incredible, she whispered. Our immune system doesn't just fight infections. It learns from them. Medical Director Clix, who had been observing nearby, moved closer. Their eyes had turned purple with amazement. In all my years of medical research, I have never seen anything like this. Perhaps we have been measuring advancement incorrectly all along. As Dr. Lee looked around the lab at humans and aliens working together, she felt a sense of pride. They weren't just studying human biology. They were redefining what it meant to be an advanced species. The research initiative was just the beginning of a new era in galactic medicine. Sometimes, she said to Medical Director Clix, the best solutions come from unexpected places. The silver-skinned alien nodded, their eyes now glowing with a warm golden color. Indeed, Dr. Lee. Indeed. Engineer Ta-Hyun Cho did not expect anything unusual during his routine maintenance check on Space Station Aurora. The massive station orbited Earth, serving as a meeting point between human and alien vessels. As the lead maintenance engineer, he had performed these checks hundreds of times before. Pressure readings are normal in Section A. He reported through his communication device to the control room. He moved carefully in his spacesuit, checking various panels and gauges along the station's outer wall. That was when the first alarm sounded. Warning: micrometeoroid impact detected. The station's computer announced. Ta-Hyun turned to see small objects shooting through space toward his section of the station. Control room, we have incoming debris, he shouted, requesting immediate. The impact cut off his words. Multiple tiny space rocks, moving faster than bullets, struck the station's hull. One pierced through his suit's arm section. The sudden pressure loss made him gasp. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The section's main window cracked, then shattered. The explosive decompression pulled Ta-hyun out into space before the emergency shields could activate. For 20 seconds, he was exposed to the vacuum of space. The station's emergency rescue team reached him quickly, but they feared it was too late. No known species could survive such exposure to space. The medical bay prepared for the worst as they brought him in. Dr. Han-Sol Kim, who happened to be visiting the station for a medical conference, rushed to help. "Get me his vital signs," he ordered as they removed Ta-hyun's damaged suit. The alien doctors stepped back in shock. Ta-hyun was alive. Not only alive, he was conscious. Cold. Ta-hyun managed to say through blue lips, "Very cold." "Impossible," whispered Dr. Zaks, the station's chief medical officer, their antenna twitching in disbelief. His blood should have boiled. His lungs should have collapsed. He should be dead. Dr. Kim finished, already working to treat his patient. "Human bodies are tougher than you think. Get me warming blankets and prepare the pressure chamber." The next few hours proved crucial. Ta-hyun's body temperature had dropped dangerously low. The vacuum exposure had caused some internal bleeding, but his body was fighting back in ways that amazed the alien medical staff. "Look at these readings," Dr. Zak said, pointing to the medical screens. "His cells are repairing themselves at an extraordinary rate. His blood pressure stabilized itself during the exposure. Even his brain activity remained partially conscious through the whole event." Dr. Kim nodded while checking Ta-hyun's vital signs. "Humans evolved with many survival mechanisms. Our bodies can handle extreme situations for short periods. We call it survival instinct, but it's really a complex system of biological responses." 3 days later, Ta-hyun sat up in his hospital bed, telling his story to a group of astonished alien doctors. His recovery was faster than anyone expected. The incident became a major case study for the research initiative led by Dr. Yuna Lee. "Your survival changes everything we thought we knew about biological resilience," Dr. Zaks told him. "No other known species could have lived through that experience." Ta-hyun shrugged modestly. "I just did what any human would do. I held on and trusted my body to keep fighting." The case became famous throughout the galaxy. It proved that human durability wasn't just remarkable. It was beyond anything the galactic medical community had seen before. The incident would be studied by medical students of all species for generations to come. As Dr. Kim wrote in his report, "The human body's ability to survive should never be underestimated. What other species see as impossible, we see as another challenge to overcome." Dr. Sun Mi-kang stared at her research notes spread across her office desk at the Seoul Institute of Evolutionary Studies. After 6 months of studying Earth's environmental history alongside human biology, she had noticed something remarkable. She picked up her phone and called Dr. Ji-woo Park, the xenobiologist who first discovered humanity's unique healing abilities. "I need you to come to my office right away," she said. "I think I understand why humans are different from every other species in the galaxy." When Dr. Park arrived, Dr. Kang showed her a timeline of Earth's history displayed on the wall screen. "Look at this. Earth has gone through more dramatic changes than most habitable planets. Ice ages, warm periods, changing oxygen levels, shifting continents. Life here had to constantly adapt." Dr. Park sat down, looking interested. "Go on." "Most advanced species in the galaxy evolved on stable planets," Dr. Kang continued. "Their worlds barely changed for millions of years. But humans, we evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in a new way every few thousand years." She pressed a button, showing images of various Earth environments. Deserts, Arctic regions, tropical forests, mountains, oceans. Humans learned to live in all of them. Our bodies had to become tough enough to handle extreme heat, extreme cold, high altitude, low oxygen, and countless diseases. That explains our adaptability, Dr. Park said slowly. But what about our healing abilities? Dr. Kang smiled and switched to a new display showing human DNA. That's the most fascinating part. Our ancestors survived so many near-extinction events that our bodies developed something unique, cellular memory. Our cells remember every survival challenge our species has faced, and they're ready to respond to new ones. She pointed to specific parts of the DNA strand. See these sections? They don't just repair damage. They learn from it. Every injury, every disease, every extreme condition we survive makes us better at handling the next challenge. Dr. Park leaned forward, her eyes wide. That's why human children can fight off new diseases so quickly. Our immune system doesn't just fight. It adapts and remembers. Exactly, Dr. Kang nodded. Other species became more specialized as they advanced. They developed technology to protect themselves from their environment. But humans, we became stronger by facing our environment head-on. The two scientists worked through the night, preparing their findings for presentation to the Galactic Medical Council. They called it the adaptive resilience theory. When they presented their theory the next week, the council chamber fell silent. The alien scientists had never considered that a harsh, changing environment could produce superior biological capabilities. This changes our understanding of evolution, said Medical Director Clicks, their eyes glowing with excitement. We thought advancement meant becoming more refined and specialized. But humans show us that true advancement can mean becoming more adaptable and resilient. Dr. Kang's theory explained many human traits that had puzzled alien doctors. Why humans could eat such a wide variety of foods, why they could survive in such different environments, and why their bodies could recover from injuries that would kill other species. As she finished her presentation, Dr. Kang made one final point. Earth didn't make us weak, she said. Its challenges made us strong. Every time our planet tested us, we didn't just survive. We became better. Maybe that's the true meaning of advancement. The theory would revolutionize galactic medicine's understanding of biological advancement. It proved that humanity's primitive traits were actually signs of remarkable evolutionary success. Dr. Du-Young Choi received the emergency alert while working late in his laboratory at the Interstellar Disease Control Center. A new disease was spreading through the galaxy, affecting multiple species at once. The situation was unprecedented. The disease moved from planet to planet, changing slightly each time it infected a new species. Standard treatments failed. 3 alien worlds had already declared medical emergencies. Doctor, his assistant said, rushing into the lab. The Galactic Medical Council is requesting immediate help. They say humans might be the key to solving this crisis. Dr. Choi looked up from his microscope. Why humans? Because we're the only ones who aren't getting sick, the assistant explained. The disease can't seem to infect humans at all. Within hours, Dr. Choi's laboratory became the center of the galaxy's fight against the pandemic. Alien doctors sent him blood samples from infected patients across multiple species. Medical Director Clicks arrived personally to oversee the research. This is fascinating, Dr. Choi said, studying the samples. The disease keeps changing to attack different species. It's like it's learning. But when it meets human cells, something different happens. He showed Medical Director Clicks the test results. When the disease encountered human blood, the human immune system didn't just fight it off. It destroyed it completely. Even better, the human cells seemed to remember how to fight each new version of the disease. Could we use human antibodies to create a treatment? Medical Director Clicks asked, their eyes glowing with hope. Dr. Choi nodded. Yes, but we need to understand why our immune system handles this so well. Let me show you something. He pulled up Dr. Sun Mi Kang's research about human adaptability. See, our immune system evolved to handle constantly changing threats. Earth's many diseases forced us to develop flexible defenses. We don't just fight one enemy at a time. We can adapt to fight many different threats simultaneously. Working day and night, Dr. Choi and his team developed a treatment using modified human antibodies. They had to adjust it carefully for each species, But the basic principle remained the same, teaching other species immune systems to adapt like human ones. The first trials worked better than anyone expected. The treatment not only cured the disease, but also helped protect against new variations. Within weeks, the pandemic began to slow down. "Your species continues to amaze us," Medical Director Klix told Dr. Choi as they reviewed the recovery statistics. "The very thing we once saw as primitive, your aggressive immune response, has saved countless lives." Dr. Choi smiled modestly. "We just shared what our bodies learned over millions of years on Earth. Every disease we survived made us stronger." The crisis marked a turning point in galactic medicine. Alien doctors began studying human immune responses more carefully. They discovered that many human diseases, which seemed dangerous to other species, had actually helped make human bodies stronger over time. As the pandemic ended, Dr. Choi wrote in his final report, "Sometimes the best defense isn't hiding from danger, but learning to face it and grow stronger. Humanity's greatest strength isn't that we avoid threats, it's that we learn from them." The Galactic Medical Council awarded him their highest honor, not just for stopping the pandemic, but for showing the galaxy a new way of thinking about disease and immunity. Dr. Min-Ki Park walked through the halls of the new Galactic Medical Academy on Earth. As head of the Human Biology Department, he had spent the past year creating teaching materials about human medical capabilities for alien medical students. Today was important. The first group of alien medical students would attend his lecture about human biological systems. He entered the large classroom and found it packed with beings from across the galaxy. Some floated, others crawled, and many sat in specially designed chairs. "Welcome to Advanced Human Biology," he began, activating the holographic display. "Today, we will learn why understanding human biology is essential for modern medical practice." The display showed a three-dimensional image of the human body. Humans may look simple on the outside, but our bodies contain survival mechanisms that took millions of years to develop. A student raised their tentacle. "Professor, why do we need a whole section about humans in our medical books? Aren't we learning enough already?" Dr. Park smiled. "Let me show you." He brought up footage from engineer Ta-Hyun Cho's space accident. The alien students watched in amazement as he explained how a human survived exposure to space. "This is just one example," he continued. "Human biology has already helped us create better treatments for multiple species. Remember the galactic pandemic? Human immune responses provided the solution." He switched to showing Dr. Sun-Mi Kang's research about Earth's challenging environment. "Our planet made us adaptable. Now we can use that adaptability to help others." The students took notes eagerly as Dr. Park explained how human medical techniques could be modified for different species. He showed them how human pain management methods could help species with more sensitive nervous systems. He demonstrated how human tissue regeneration techniques could speed up healing in other races. "But most importantly," he said, "we need to understand each other. Humans will keep traveling through space. Some of you will treat human patients. You need to know why we heal differently, why we respond to treatments differently, and why our bodies work the way they do." After the lecture, Dr. Park met with Medical Director Klix to discuss the new medical textbooks. Every medical student in the galaxy would now study human biology as part of their training. The chapter about human healing abilities is particularly important, Medical Director Klix said, their eyes glowing with approval. "We've included case studies from Dr. Han-Sol Kim's first alien patient to Dr. Du-Yum Choi's pandemic treatment." Dr. Park nodded. "We've also added guidelines for treating human patients. Many alien doctors are surprised by how quickly humans recover from surgery, or how our bodies fight infections." The new textbooks would change how the galaxy viewed human biology. Instead of seeing humans as primitive, medical students would learn to appreciate the sophistication of human survival traits. "Our bodies tell the story of our survival," Dr. Park wrote in the textbook's introduction. "Every scar, every immunity, every healing ability comes from countless generations facing and overcoming challenges. Now we can share these abilities with the galaxy." The first edition of the new medical textbooks was published that year. For the first time in galactic history, human biology became required study for all medical students, marking a new era in interstellar medicine. Professor Hai-Jin Song stood at the window of her office in the Galactic Medical Archives, looking out at the Earth shining in the distance. 10 years had passed since humans first discovered their unique place in galactic medicine. As the leading historian of medical science, she had documented every step of this remarkable journey. Today, she was finishing her comprehensive review of how human biology had changed galactic medicine forever. Her desk displayed holographic images of the key figures in this medical revolution. Dr. Han-Sol Kim, who first treated an alien patient. Dr. Ji-Woo Park, who discovered humanity's unique healing abilities. Dr. Sun-Mi Kang, who explained why humans evolved differently. And Dr. Do-Young Choi, who used human immunity to save the galaxy from a pandemic. Professor, her assistant called from the doorway. The Galactic Medical Council is ready for your presentation. Professor Song gathered her materials and walked to the grand conference hall. The room was filled with medical professionals from hundreds of species. They had come to hear her speak about the 10th anniversary of the human biology section in medical education. 10 years ago, she began, the galaxy saw humans as primitive creatures with messy biology. Today, our medical knowledge has saved countless lives across the stars. But the real change isn't just in medicine. It's in how we understand what it means to be advanced. She showed images of the latest medical achievements, hybrid healing techniques that combine human resilience with alien medical technology, new treatments based on human immune responses, training programs that taught doctors of all species how to use human survival mechanisms to help their patients. The numbers tell an amazing story, she continued. Death rates from severe injuries have dropped by 40% across all species. Recovery times from major surgery have been cut in half. Survival rates for complex diseases have doubled. But the most interesting changes, she explained, were cultural. Alien societies had started viewing toughness and adaptability as signs of advancement. Species that once relied only on technology for survival began developing their natural healing abilities. Humans taught the galaxy something important, Professor Song said. True advancement isn't just about becoming more sophisticated. Sometimes it's about becoming stronger, more adaptable, and better at surviving. She showed a final image, a group of medical students from different species working together in a hospital. Today, every medical student in the galaxy studies human biology. Not because we're special, but because we're different. Our bodies tell a story of survival against incredible odds, and that story has become part of galactic medical knowledge. After her presentation, Medical Director Clicks approached her. Their eyes glowed with a mix of colors that showed deep respect. Your species has changed us more than you know, they said. We thought we were teaching humans about advanced medicine. Instead, humans taught us what true advancement means. Professor Song smiled. Perhaps that's the greatest legacy of our chapter in medical textbooks. It's not just about teaching alien doctors how to treat humans. It's about showing the galaxy a different way to view progress and evolution. As she returned to her office, Professor Song added a final note to her review. The human section in medical textbooks represents more than just scientific knowledge. It represents a change in how the galaxy understands life itself. Our greatest contribution wasn't our technology or our science. It was our story of survival, adaptation, and resilience. A story that now helps all species live better, healthier lives among the stars.